It's December 15, 2013 on a Sunday, 6:15 p.m. Pacific Time. And up next, okay folks, I have this article here. This is for you to make the decision. It's not reflective of my own personal opinion or viewpoint, and it's not to cause fear or panic, it's just information. This is by Chris Carrington of the Daily Sheeple, and it was posted December 9, 2013. Starvation coming to your town soon. Way back in 2006, NASA's David Hathaway said on their website that solar cycle 25, which will start around 2022, was going to be a low sunspot cycle. Low sunspot cycles, as is rapidly becoming apparent, is linked to future cold weather. Neither they or the government said anything at the time or during the 7 years since it was published. May 10, 2006. The sun's great conveyor belt has slowed to a record low crawl, according to research by NASA solar physicist David Hathaway. It's off the bottom of the charts, he said. This has important repercussions for future solar activity. The great conveyor belt is a massive circulating current of fire, hot plasma, within the sun. It has two branches, north and south, each taking about 40 years to perform one complete circuit. Researchers believe the turning of the belt controls the sunspot cycle, and that's why the slowdown is important. And you can see that illustration on your right. Normally, the conveyor belt moves about 1 meter per second, walking pace, said Hathaway. That's how it has been since the late 19th century. In recent years, however, the belt has decelerated to 0.75 meters a second in the north and 0.35 meters per second in the south. We've never seen speeds so low. According to theory and observation, the speed of the belt foretells the intensity of sunspot activity 20 years in the future. A slow belt means lower solar activity. A fast belt means stronger activity. The reasons for this are explained in the Science NASA story, Solar Storm Warning. The slowdown we see now means that solar cycle 25, peaking around the year 2022, could be one of the weakest in centuries, said Hathaway. And here's the source link right there. Scientists have known for some time that a long, low sunspot cycle tends to make the next solar cycle, in this case, solar cycle 25, weaker than its predecessor. So if people, including myself, think that cycle 24, our current cycle, is likely to lead to global cooling, what is being said about cycle 25? NASA themselves have mentioned the sunspot peak for cycle 25 may be 7. Yes, you read that right, 7. One more than 6 and one less than 8. Their prediction for the current cycle was 67, give or take a spot. They were correct. So if they are right about cycle 25, what will that mean for us? World temperatures may end up a lot cooler than now for 50 years or more, said Henrik Svensmark, director of the Center for Sun Climate Research at Denmark's National Space Institute. It will take a long battle to convince some climate scientists that the sun is important. It may well be that the sun is going to demonstrate this on its own without the need for their help. And that's another source link right there. Maunder minimum. And there's your chart of the Maunder minimum. And the image is credited to Don Easterbrook. As you can see, the NASA figure of a peak of 7 for solar cycle 25 puts it in the Maunder minimum territory. Not good for us heat-loving humans and our heat-loving crops and livestock. We know that humans can get by in intense cold, but doing so brings with it some very major difficulties, predominantly food. Returning to Maunder minimum temperatures or even Dalton minimum temperatures is going to represent a major problem for agriculture and livestock across the northern hemisphere. We see the results of cold weather on both crops and livestock every year. Wheat rotting in the fields due to cold and rain, cattle freezing to death under a thick blanket of snow, but generally, these are isolated incidents. Imagine, if you can, the whole of North America, as well as the rest of the Northern Hemisphere, facing the same crisis at the same time. No shipments of grain passing back and forth across the oceans as one nation helps out another in its time of need. Empty shelves in supermarkets for months at a time because trucks just can't make it through due to the weather. Prices skyrocketing to the extent that fresh produce becomes unaffordable to the masses, available only to those that can procure and transport it. Most winters spent without grid-supplied power as lines come down with the weight of snow and ice. Cool and wet summers, not just affecting commercial farmers, but what you can grow in your own yard. The problem with the future is that one day it arrives, and it's here, it's now. Global warming ceased in 1998 very slowly, almost imperceptibly. Cooling has begun. As we move forward in time, the pace will quicken. The changes become more noticeable. With solar cycle 25 compounding the effects of cycle 24, we need to think about the next decade or so, and we need to do it now. At this point, we live in a country where there is a relative abundance of food. This is going to change, and once the weather starts behaving differently, it will be too late to set any survival plans you have in motion. Prices will rise fast, and scarcity will become more common. You need to start today. None of us have lived through a truly cold period that just goes on and on. We have all suffered bad winters and the massive relief when they are over and we move on and head towards summer. Picture you and your family trying to survive 6 months of bitterly cold weather each year and finding the summer waterlogs fields and gardens. Realistically, how long would you last? Can you honestly say you have enough fuel to supply an alternate means of heating your home and cooking food? Do you actually have enough on hand to survive 6 months? What about the following year? How will you deal with that? Unlike most things we think may happen in the future, this catastrophe is actually unfolding before our very eyes. The evidence is there for all to see. There is no reason to think that the relationship between the sun and the earth is going to suddenly change. Our climate moves in cycles, and this is just one cycle of many. The difference this time is that there are far more mouths to feed. We are reliant on the grid and piped utilities. Many of us have lost or never had the skills to survive on our own merit. We have become a just-in-time society. Just in time. All of these things, and no doubt you can think of countless others, make us ill-equipped to deal with what is coming. Read, research, stock up, and generally prepare, because if nature decides this is what's going to happen, it will happen, and that's the end of it. Mother Nature does not negotiate and cares nothing for the effects on our lives. Delivered by the Daily Sheeple. Okay, so they're suggesting to prepare now. All right. And again, I cannot confirm any of this information. It's totally up to you to decide. But I would definitely go with the suggestion to be prepared now. It's always better to be prepared than unprepared. I've said that before, and I still say it now. Thanks for watching. Be safe. Pink out.